One Church of Jacksonville, Archbishop Leonard Love and Bishop Carolyn Love welcomes you to join us for this live broadcast. We know that you will be blessed by this service, which is already in progress.
Hello, One Church, and all that in attendance tonight in Wednesday night Bible class. I tell you, it is so good to be able to sit and to talk with you, to teach you, and to watch you grow. God has been so good. He's been so good to us, and I mean to all of us. He's brought us this far in our journey and in life, and he has never left us. And I got news for you. He will never leave you either. Tonight I'm going to talk about one of my favorite Psalms, and it's one of my favorite Psalms because it teaches me how much God cared for me. It teaches me how much God loved me. It teaches me how much God will protect me and how far God will go to see to it that I live my best life. And you all probably know what Psalm I'm going to because I talk about it a lot. That's Psalms 23, Psalms 23 in God's Psalm book. It is a Psalm of David, and it is titled, the subtitle here is The Lord, the Shepherd of His People. The Lord, the Shepherd of His People. The Bible itself is full of metaphors, and it's full of figures of speech. When you find that this particular psalm, you'll find that there are metaphors, and you will find that there are figures of speech. Well, what is a metaphor, you might ask? A metaphor is used as a method of teaching. A method of teaching. Why is that? It uses something that you are familiar with to explain or teach a lesson. It uses something that you are familiar with, something that you know, to teach a lesson, to explain a lesson. And then a figure of speech. Well, what is that? A figure of speech is nothing other than a term or a phrase, and is applied to something to which it is not. A term or a phrase applied to something to which it is not. So you will find that the Bible is full of metaphors, and it's full of what we call figures of speech, just like this particular psalm. All right. The Lord, the shepherd of his people. Well, what is a shepherd? Well, a shepherd is a person who gathers, tends, guards, protects, guides, and watch over the flock. All right, we'll consider the flock of God, and Jesus is the chief shepherd, the main shepherd. And so again, this psalm teaches me that he will lead me, that he will guide me, that he will cover me, he will protect me, he will see about me, he will provide for me. So let's get into it just a little bit here and see what the Lord is saying to us for this particular lesson. All right. The Lord is my shepherd. Verse 1. The Lord is my shepherd. He is my shepherd. That's Christ's relations to his people is often represented by the figure of a shepherd, a metaphor, using something that we are familiar with to teach or to explain a lesson, He is my shepherd. You find in John chapter 10, verse 14, it says this: I am the good shepherd, and know my sheep, and am known of mine. Again, just going a little bit further to explain that you'll find throughout the Bible, especially the New Testament, where Jesus is called the shepherd, the good shepherd, or the chief shepherd. He is the shepherd of his people, over his people. So here David is using this metaphor again to talk about him. That's John 10:14 again. It says, I am the good shepherd and know my sheep. Know my sheep. See, a good shepherd knows the sheep. He knows the tendencies of his sheep. He knows when it's time to feed his sheep. He knows when it's time to find other pastures. He knows when it's time to move his sheep. Okay? And so he says in John 10 again, I am the good shepherd and know my sheep and am known of mine. And known of mine. You know, it's ironic, but the sheep, that has been tended by a shepherd for a while knows their particular shepherd. It knows the shepherd, okay? And those sheep will not follow another shepherd. The sheep will always listen for a particular sound from their shepherd. And when the sheep hear that sound, the sheep will follow their shepherd, okay? Hebrews 13:20 says, now the God of peace that brought again from the dead our Lord Jesus, that great shepherd of the sheep, through the blood of the everlasting covenant. Hebrew, and I believe that Paul, the one that penned Hebrews, so I'm going to say Paul said, he calls him the great shepherd of the sheep. The great shepherd of the sheep. And he called him also the God of peace. He said, now through the blood of the everlasting covenant, he was brought back from the dead. Okay? That great shepherd of the sheep, through the blood of the everlasting covenant, the God of peace, to give us peace. 2 Peter 2:25 says, for ye were as sheep going astray, but are now returned unto the shepherd and bishop of your souls. 1 Peter 5:4 says, now when the chief shepherd shall appear, ye shall receive a crown of glory that fadeth not away. So we see that throughout the scripture, Jesus is referred to as the shepherd of his people, the good shepherd, the great shepherd, the chief shepherd. Okay, so David again, he penned this. He said, the Lord is my shepherd. He is my shepherd. I shall not want. See, in other words, David is saying that whatever his needs are will be provided by the shepherd who is the Lord in this instance. I shall not want. And there's something about Jesus again. He is the provider of our spiritual needs, but he also is the provider of our physical needs. He knows how to take care of his sheep. He knows how to see about his sheep. He knows how to provide for his sheep. If you are one of his, know that you are always on his mind. We have not because we ask not. In the first verse says here, the Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. What you say, David? I shall not want. Why? Because the Lord is my keeper. He is my protector. He is my provider. He is the one that see about me. He is the one that stand guard over me. He is the one that leads me and guides me. Verse 2 says, he maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. Listen how David is talking about the shepherd, the good shepherd, the great shepherd, the chief shepherd. Again, green pastures are pastures of tender grass. Pastures of tender grass is mentioned here not in respect to food, but in places of cool and refreshing rest. See, in other words, God knows, Jesus knows through God how to lead you to that place of perfect rest, peace, the peace that passeth all understanding. So again, he's not talking here. He's not talking about food, but he's talking about tender grass. That soft grass where you can rest, where you can be refreshed and get that sweet and peaceful rest. Verse 3 of the Psalm says, He maketh me to lie down in these pastures. He leadeth me beside still waters. So in these pastures of tender grass, this soft grass, he maketh us to lie down and to get that rest that we so often need. We so often need, especially those of you that's in leadership in the Lord's church. Sometimes you work so hard, you go so long without rest. But know this, with Jesus being your shepherd, your great shepherd, your chief shepherd, if you allow him to, he will lead you to that place of perfect rest, that place where you'll be refreshed, that place where you can experience the cool of the day and get that rest that you so desire. Yeah, he says, He maketh me, in verse 3 again, He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters, literally waters of stillness, that flow quietly and invites us to just rest, not like the roaring sea that's boisterous, or streams that run fast, on the other hand, you see, but waters that are still, flowing smoothly. A lot of times when I lay down, we have all these electronic gadgets now in this day and time, and I just tell one of them sometimes to just play me some smooth, some soothing water sounds as I lay down to take my rest. But that's what David is saying here. He's trying to express. He will lead me beside those still waters, where I can lay down in these green pastures, this soft grass, and just take my rest. All this he is saying about the good shepherd, the great shepherd, the chief shepherd. Again, using this metaphor, something that he is familiar with, something that you are familiar with, in order to teach a lesson, to explain some things that we can better understand what he is talking about when he's talking about his shepherd, the one that leads him, the one that guides him, the one that provides for him, the one that protects him, the one that will always come to see about him. This great shepherd. He's, again, verse 3, He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. Verse 3 says, He restores my soul. He restores my soul. To restore my soul, is for me to revive or to be quickened. For me to revive. Again, in your tiredness through the day. There are times when you need to be revived. What David is saying here, he is saying here in verse 3, He will restore you in a way of reviving you or quickening you. The strength that you gave out during the day in your daily duties, going about preaching and teaching and ministering and counseling. God will revive you. He will give you that rest that you can't get from anywhere else. He will give you that perfect rest, that sweet rest, that peaceful rest that will cause your soul to be revived, He restores my soul. He leadeth me in the path of righteousness. Yes. Why? For his name's sake. For his name's sake. He will guide us in ways that's pleasing to him. Ways that's pleasing to him. He will guide us in. Tell me, who wouldn't love a God like this? Who wouldn't serve a God like this? Well, a God that would see about you, lead you, guide you, protect you, give you that rest that you so deserve. Revive your soul so you will be replenished and you can go back and go about your normal duties, And he will do this for his name's sake. Verse 4 says this, watch this. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Again, David is using something that his listeners are familiar with. Maybe a ravine that's overhung by cliffs and filled with dense forests with trees. A place where you can easily be attacked by a vicious wild animal. Not only attacked, but maybe killed by a vicious wild animal. Even be robbed by a thief and might even lose your life in the process of being robbed, being taken advantage of, being beaten to death. And so using this metaphor, the people understand what he's talking about. The valley, the shadow of death. He is expressing this in a way to let you know that even in this dreaded situation, this dire situation, that God is yet with you. He will never leave you, nor will he forsake you. He is yet with you to protect you. Verse 4 says again, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. He says, I will fear no evil. Talking about the shepherd that will protect you, even when you find yourself in places that you are undesirable. Even when you find yourself in places that might be a little bit not where you would want to be at that time. And living in this day and time, it don't matter what part of the world you're in, there will come a time, sometimes that you are in places, walking through places that you are not sure of. But this you can be assured of. God entered it with you, and he will stick with you all the way through that place. He will bring you through it and out of it. Here's what David said again. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Why, David? For you are with me. Now, David switched right there in the middle of the screen. David began talking about God. Yeah, he began talking about him from verse 1 all the way down through the A part of verse 4. All right, let's go back to verse 1. It says, the Lord is my shepherd, talking about the Lord. I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leads me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Talking about all the provisions that God has set forth for his people, for his children, all the attributes of God concerning his children and the things that he will do to keep you and protect you and to see to it that you live a complete and successful life. So the A part of verse 4 says, yea, though I walk through, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. So now David switched from talking about the Lord to talking about himself. He says again, yea though. See, before he's talking to you to let you know what God will do for you. Now, the A part of verse 4, he says, yea though I, personal, walk through the valley of the shadow of death. He says, I will fear no evil. All right. So David is talking about his experience here, his experience with God. He says even walking through places that were not so friendly, places where he should have fear. He said, I fear no evil, even going through these places. Why? Then he switched again. And he left off talking about himself now and began to talk to God. For he says, for you are with me. This is why I won't fear. This is why fear cannot walk with me, because you're walking with me. Yea, though I walk through this valley of the shadow of death, I'm not going to fear any evil. Why? Because you are with me. Your rod and your staff comfort me. Your rod and your staff comfort me. Now here again, now we left off with the metaphor, and we're talking here, a figure of speech. Again, the valley of the shadow of death, the valley of the shadow of death. I'm explaining something here that will help you to understand what I'm talking about. Although things are so bad and so dreary here, you can understand or get a picture of what I am talking about. And even with it being that way, I'm not going to fear. I'm not going to fear. And the reason I'm not going to fear is because you, God, you are with me. Your rod and your staff. And those are symbols of the shepherd's office. The rod and the staff. It's the rod and the staff that the shepherd used to guide the sheep. Okay, David. So you're going through this bad place. You're not going to fear because God is with you. All right. He says, for you are with me, my good shepherd, my great shepherd, my chief shepherd. He's with me, and his rod and his staff, his rod and his staff, they comfort me. The symbols, figures of speech here, the symbols of the shepherd's office that the shepherd used to guide the sheep. So David's saying, I'm not going to fear. You are with me. Your rod and staff, they're going to guide me through the situation. There might be those of you going through some things, going through situations now that you have no idea how you're going to come out. Listen, your dependence should be upon God, in Jesus, through God. Because now again, he is the good shepherd, the great shepherd, the chief shepherd. And David just explained to us that he will guide us. He will guide us through situations where we have found ourselves lost, where we have found ourselves stuck. He will guide us through these areas, these particular areas of concern. Yeah. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that wonderful that God, through Jesus Christ, will always take care of his children? When we lean and depend on him, when we hold on to his unchanging hand, God will always see about his people. He said, now, God, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. I'm going through this stuff, but I'm even comforted. I'm being comforted going through because you are guiding me every step of the way. You're guiding me. And then verse 5 says, you even prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemy. God, you do this. You do this. Another figure of speech here. And he's saying, God, you provide for me. You care for me. It might be those that's not wishing me well, but even in their presence, you provide for me. You show the world that you are yet with me and not against me. Not against me. That's verse 5 and verse 6. Let's go back to verse 5 and read it completely and then go to verse 6. It says, you, God, prepare a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Then you anointed my head with oil, my cup running over. My cup running over. That table is a figure of speech for provision, for food. Isn't that something how God will provide for you where there is lack and where others might be wishing you evil, not wishing you well, but even in their presence, God will provide for you. And he said he would even anoint your head with oil. That oil is as a symbol of gladness. Again, a figure of speech. How happy would you be when God do these things for you? He says, now, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord. How long, David? Forever. Can you understand why this psalm is one of my favorite psalms? Because anytime I feel down, I feel low, this psalm have a way of lifting me up. When I get into it and begin to recite it, begin to read it, begin to study it, I then understand that although I might be going through something just like some of you, God is yet with me. He is yet with me. He has not left me. Going through these places, these undesirable places, he is yet with us. And when we allow him, he will lead us and guide us into that perfect place of peace, that perfect place of rest, where we will be revived and ready to get back into battle again. Well, God bless you. And I tell you, I just enjoyed this psalm so much. And it is such a big part of my life. And not only a big part of my life, but I can always see myself here and see how Jesus himself protects me, keeps me, provide for me, lead me, guide me, and watch over me, the same as he does for you. Well, thank you so much. It's now time that we obey God. We return the tithe. We bring our offerings and seed. The venues for giving, they're on the screen. Obey God and watch God do miraculous, wonderful things for you in your life. Hey, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. And again, I thank you for joining in. I love you, and we'll see you again. I look to see you Sunday, and we'll be back next Wednesday. God bless you. Have a great night.
Welcome to One Church of Jacksonville, a ministry ordained to empower believers to impact the lives of others, communities, nations, and the world, under the leadership of Archbishop Leonard Love and Bishop Carolyn Love. OCOJ, stop and pray. Join us weekly for 15 minutes of corporate prayer every Tuesday morning at 7 a.m. and every Thursday evening at 6:45 p.m. That's 15 minutes together, uniting in prayer every Tuesday morning at 7 a.m. and Thursday evenings at 6:45 p.m. Dial 1-712-432-3900. Access code 477123#. Ladies of OCOJ, mark your calendars now for the 2022 Ladies Fellowship. Saturday, September 17th at 10:22 a.m. will be the time to return our praise. Invite the sisters in your life for a time of fellowship, praise, worship, and a word from God. That's the Sisters Fellowship, Saturday, September 17th at 10:22 a.m. Vendor space available, temperature checks, and mask required. For more information, call 904-765-5323 or email info@ocoj.com. Sisters United for the Journey 2022 announces Sisters Getaway November 4th and 5th at the Hammock Resort, Palm Coast, Florida. You deserve this break. Register today as spaces are limited. Register at www.sisters-retreat.com. That's November 4th and 5th in Palm Coast, Florida at the Hammock Resort. Don't miss it. Register today. OCOJ visitors, families, and friends, we appreciate your continued support during this OCOJ ministry opportunity. Be sure to get connected and stay connected to worship with OCOJ every Sunday morning at 9:30 a.m. and every Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. via live stream on Facebook, conference call, or the OCOJ website. Always remember, OCOJ, One Church of Jacksonville, where we are one, celebrating a year where we will not be denied.
Proverbs 3 says, let not mercy and truth forsake thee. Bend them about thy neck and write them upon the table of thine heart. Come on. Take out your spiritual pencils. Or come on, say it. Listen, come on. Listen, you gotta take the words and write it on the tablet. Hey. Yeah. Listen, I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me will forever be fruitful indeed. I am the way, the truth, and the light. No one gets with the Father except that it comes through me. Yeah. So let not mercy and truth say forsake you, forsake you. Let not mercy and truth say forsake you, forsake you. Write him on the tablet of your heart. Listen, come on, hey. You gotta take the words and write it on the tablet. Woo. Yeah. Come on, help me say that. I am the way. Come on. The truth and the light. Sing it. No one gets to the Father. Come on, accept that it comes through me. Come on. Yeah. Let your mercy and truth say forsake you, forsake you. Let that mercy get your pencils out and come on. Take the words and write it on the tablet. Come on. Yeah. That's it. Come on. Oh, this is my favorite part right here. Listen. Yeah. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Trust in the Lord with all your might. Hey, trust in the Lord with all your strength. Lean not to your
for joining us for the live broadcast of One Church of Jacksonville with Pastors Archbishop Leonard Love and Bishop Carolyn Love. Be sure to join us every Wednesday, 7 p.m. for our midweek service and every Sunday at 9:30 a.m. for morning worship and a sure word from God. For more information, please call 904-765-5323.